Stay frosty and head over to EasyMutt.com for the cheapest mutt coins on the market. And when I say cheapest, I mean it. We're talking 1 million coins for around $40. Use code DIRECTOR for 5% off. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the Director. Chargers fans, week 1 of training camp is in the books, and there's a lot to talk about, a lot to unfold, and a lot to be excited about. So many big stories coming out of camp. I wanted to clump a lot of them in one video today. The winners and losers of week 1 training camp. I think losers is probably a pretty big word, though, right? I don't know if they're necessarily losers, but people that really do need to step it up in camp and really carve a place out for themselves on this team, and maybe also carve themselves out a permanent spot as a starter on this team. Looking at you, Uchenna Nwosu, but it should be a good one today, guys. Very excited for Chargers football. We are just around the corner from the first preseason game. It's gonna be a lot of fun, man. I do plan on live streaming a watch party that day, so you guys get ready for that. It should be a really good time. Well, before we do get started in this one, guys, we got a lot of players to go over. We're gonna jump right into it. Hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. Can I just tell you guys how excited I am about Chargers training camp right now? There are some big stories coming out of camp right now, and it really feels like Coach Brandon Staley, probably the ultimate winner in training camp right now, is doing a fantastic job, specifically with this defense, I would say, but he really is turning out to be a player's coach, and it really feels like the team is responding to him. Very excited to see how he handles the 2021 season. Let's start off this list, however, with my biggest winners and losers coming out of camp in week 1 for the Chargers, starting with Rashaan Slater. I almost said Kyler Fackrill right there, number 52. Rashaan Slater, number 70 right there, rookie for the Chargers, first round pick. This guy looks absolutely insane, dudes. I think a lot of people had, I would say, pretty high expectations for Rashaan Slater, but there were some things to be concerned about. Maybe his size a little bit. He is a rookie. It takes time for offensive linemen to gel and get used to, the whole uniformity of the line. But Rashaan Slater really has stood out already, because the Chargers, I would say, have some pretty good pass rushers on their team for him to get reps against. And oh my goodness, guys, I think he went up against 3 or 4 of our best pass rushers and won every single engagement. I'm talking, Slater versus Nwosu versus Fackrill, and yes, even Joey Bosa. He won all 5 of those, showing very smooth movement, angles, execution. The rookie really is standing out in camp, and if you're a Chargers fan, man, you've watched this offensive line deteriorate for the past several seasons. It's really nice and refreshing to see a prospect on the offensive line take strides in the right direction. Dudes, I think Rashaan Slater, the Chargers got themselves a left tackle of the future. Of course, him and Penei Sewell were 1A, 1B coming into the draft, and it really feels like the Chargers got their guy at left tackle for a very long time. So Rashaan Slater, a position that the Chargers probably needed the most on this team. He looks to be one of the more quality offensive linemen that you're going to find in the NFL. Now, unfortunately, on the flip side, we do have an offensive lineman that a lot of Chargers fans very excited that we picked up during the offseason in 2020, and his name is Brian Bulaga. This story quite hasn't shaken out quite yet. I'm not going to say it's not going to. Like I told you guys several times over the past few videos, Brian Bulaga has a really funny and unique pattern, I suppose. He'll have one really good season, and then maybe the next season he gets hurt, he's not playing 100%, and then the following season after that, he'll play really good again. So according to that, he should be fine this season, right? Well, not looking so good so far in training camp. He did go down with an injury. Trainers were looking at him. We don't know the severity of the injury at this point. At least I don't. If you guys do in the comment section, please catch me up. But injuries are going to happen, right? I think it's pretty inevitable once you get the pads on. Unfortunately, with the case of Brian Bulaga, it's been more frequent than not. And hopefully the Chargers don't start off the season with a glaring hole at right tackle. That could be a really, really big problem for the Chargers going forward. So I'm rooting for Brian Bulaga, man. When he's on the field and he's healthy, he really is one of the better right tackles in the league, but he's really been struggling since the Chargers did sign him last season. I'm really hoping he does bounce back this year, because if this entire offensive line solidifies with the names that we have it on right now, with the complete restructuring of the entire line that we've got right now, it could definitely be a top half line in the league. And if you're a Chargers fan, top half is absolutely tremendous. Of course, going from the worst line in the league last season to one of the better lines in the league this season, that could definitely spell out to a nice follow-up year for Justin Herbert. Next up, I would say this guy's becoming a true fan favorite, all right? Every single week that we host Sim Sundays, everyone's wondering what kind of play this guy's going to make. And honestly, people are starting to think that in training camp now with Josh Palmer. We call him Josh Palm Trees in the chat. People spamming the palm trees emote. Josh Palmer, fans are going to love this guy, okay? Watching some of his tape, watching some of his plays in training camp has been absolutely amazing. He's been a pleasure to see in his route running, his separation, all that sort of stuff's already starting to turn heads. And I think one of the biggest plays, he caught a touchdown that was thrown behind him by Chase Daniels. He turned around, he adjusted, he made it happen, man. And from a rookie perspective, or from the perspective of looking at a rookie, you don't see that very often. And I do think we've seen something special in Josh Palmer. Again, he was maybe overlooked by a lot of people, including myself, because he came, from a system that wide receivers didn't really thrive that much. Tennessee had a terrible quarterback, one of the worst in the nation. But what the Chargers did in looking for a cornerback last season in the draft, they constantly noticed this guy, Josh Palmer. Man, this dude is slapping around some of the best DBs in the nation. They took a shot on him. And I think that he's going to stand out very, very soon for the Chargers in the regular season, whether it be this season or next year. He's already starting to impress people. So Josh Palmer, very excited to see his future with the Bolts. And man, does he look good, man. Route running. Honestly, dudes, you look at the Chargers wide receiver core right now. Julio Jones, who? I'm not going to say Devontae Adams, who, because, man, that guy can make a huge difference. But the Chargers wide receivers are really stepping up in this training camp. So this is one big winner for me this year so far in training camp. Josh Palmer, very excited to see him get more playing time with Justin Herbert. Next up, I think we got another winner here on this list. Yeah, it's not going to be winner, loser, winner, loser. We're talking a little bit about Kyler Fackrill. Man, I was looking for, actually, let's go back to Rashaan Slater's picture right here, right? There's Kyler Fackrill right there, although he is getting beat by Rashaan Slater. Kyler Fackrill, to me, was a signing very similar to a Nick Vigil of last season. Man, you want some quality depth in there. The Chargers have had a lot of problems at linebacker in the past. I think at one point we had no linebackers, were playing all DBs. Chargers wanted to avoid that. They bring in Kyler Fackrill, who honestly is an under-the-radar pretty good talent, right? Well, he's been playing mostly with the ones in training camp, and that's been honestly pretty telling of how Brandon Staley wants to use him in his defense. And honestly, I think he's been showing amazing effectiveness in Brandon Staley's scheme. So he might find himself with more time on the field than we all initially thought. He might be rotating with Uchenna Nwosu in a similar way that we saw with Melvin Ingram last season. But honestly, Kyler Fackrill, he's the kind of talent that could really surprise some people and maybe, again, carve himself out a nice spot on this roster where he gets a lot more playing time than we initially thought. So I don't know, man. Kyler Fackrill, he looks pretty solid to me. Again, one of those signings by Tom Telesco people don't see coming, but maybe he does make a big impact for the team in 2021. Now, we can't talk about Kyler Fackrill without talking a little bit about Uchenna Nwosu, okay? Uchenna Nwosu is my guy. I think he's still my guy, the guy that's going to break out and really be a dominant presence on this team in 2021. However, that being the case, even though I think he's going to have a big year and all that kind of stuff, the camp battle is here. The realistic, perspective of everything is that he is trying to fight off Kyler Fackrill. Kyler Fackrill has a good shot at getting a lot of reps this season. And honestly, it's a little bit surprising to me, but at the same time, not good news for Uchenna Nwosu. We all thought that maybe, going into training camp, we're going to see something that's, my goodness, this guy's the number one, unquestioned. He's getting all the ones reps. He's not getting as many as we thought because of Kyler Fackrill. Maybe they're trying stuff out. Maybe, we're looking into it a little bit too deep. But honestly, I'm hoping this lights a fire under the butt of Uchenna Nwosu and gets him to perform at the next level. You know what I mean? Because I do think the talent is there. We've seen flashes in years past. He could definitely be the guy opposite Joey Bosa. But as of right now, the situation dictates that he is trying to fend off Kyler Fackrill, which in a case makes Uchenna Nwosu a slight loser in this list. But again, loser is a pretty powerful word. I don't think that's the loser that we're looking at here. Next up, a huge winner, guys. If you've been watching any sort of clips from training camp, any highlights of Justin Herbert or whatever, it's been impossible not to notice this guy. Okay, honestly, Tyron Johnson. Wow. What a week for T. Billy, whose stock probably arguably went up the most this week during training camp. Big plays, crisper route running. This all could point to a bigger year for Tyron Johnson, man. This guy has been absolutely insane. The Chargers really looking for an answer at speed for the past couple of seasons, and they might have found it in Tyron Johnson, who is a younger player. He's got a long time left in the NFL. If he keeps playing the way he's playing, he might carve himself out a nice career in the NFL. Justin Herbert have been connecting on some of the biggest plays you'll see in training camp. Probably the fan favorite we saw this last weekend was Justin Herbert escaping the pocket, tossing a 70-yard bomb in the corner pocket on the right side of the end zone, and T. Billy coming down with a spectacular catch. And also, I think the biggest thing that gets me excited, because I already knew Tyron Johnson was fast. I already knew Tyron Johnson had pretty good hands as not dropping a catch last season. What got me most excited was the crisper looking of his route running. He really looked like he polished things over the offseason. And if he can really do that, if he can excel in that area and grow in that area, I think he could honestly be the Chargers' number 3 wide receiver for a long time. And some people are saying that he could be working his way up the roster as we speak. So Tyron Johnson, very explosive, very fun player to watch in training camp. And honestly, his rapport and his chemistry with Justin Herbert so far has been nothing short of spectacular. Now, unfortunately, on the opposite side of this, dudes, we do have a wide receiver that might be underperforming a little bit. I would say the receivers are probably one of the biggest things that are standing out to me in camp outside of the defense. But unfortunately for Mike Williams, he's been on the opposite side of the spectrum here. We're going to put him in the loser category, unfortunately. He caught 4 out of 10 catches at one point, dropping 6 balls, which honestly, that's causing him to fall behind, the pack of impressive wide receiver performances we've seen this week already. His route running is showing signs of needing improvement. The point of Mike Williams being on the team is that he needs to shine in 50-50 ball, moments. He's a physical, wide receiver. He's supposed to be able to go up there and get it and bring in those secure catches. And we've seen a large number of drops so far in camp, and that does cause concern a little bit for me. Although Mike Williams, I would say if I'm him, my number 1 priority going into this camp is to really focus on my health. So if I'm Mike Williams, maybe, it's not 101% on the field, but 101% in staying healthy. I can understand that. He's still going to be the Chargers' number 2 wide receiver. He's got too much talent, too much potential, too much chemistry with Justin Herbert. I think he's going to be just fine, but as it goes in training camp right now, he's kind of getting outshined by the other wide receivers on this roster, which is unfortunate to see. He's not going anywhere, though, guys. Don't start asking, should we trade him and this and that? No, he's going to stay with the Chargers. I do think that he's going to see a bounce back in season, but as of training camp right now, he's falling behind the pack a little bit. Next up, we got a linebacker who used to be a safety that's starting to show off his coverage skills a little bit. And Kassim White, man, this guy, he's a standout in Sim Sundays, right? We have a lot of fun watching him in coverage. I would say there's going to be a lot of players that are beneficiaries to Brandon Staley's scheme, right? And it really does feel like Kassim White is really starting to shine in that situation. He's benefiting a lot from Brandon Staley, and he's been making a lot of plays on the field. So honestly, again, linebacker, a very interesting, position for the Chargers to keep an eye on right now. Chris Rumph has been looking really good. Kassim White, of course. Kenneth Murray's been looking amazing. But then you got guys like Drew Tranquill, who surprisingly hasn't been taking a lot of, reps or as many reps with the ones as we thought. You got guys like Kassim White. You got guys like Kyler Fackrill. There's a lot of people all over the place that, lots of talent at the linebacker position. So Kassim White to stand out among all those big names, really good for him, man. I think he is going to be used a lot in this Chargers defense with Brandon Staley, maybe a lot of cover 3 or whatever you want to say in that instance where he's going to be used as a coverage linebacker. I think he's shown a lot of improvement. I'm very excited to see how he shakes out in the season. Another winner we got coming up right here, man. The Chargers' last pick in the 2021 draft, Mark Webb, has been looking really, really good. And honestly, it's kind of surprising to say because usually those last few picks in the draft. These guys are really working, hard to actually make the 53-man roster. But Mark Webb has really been turning heads, a couple of pass breakups, even a pick six at one point. He's carving himself out a place on this roster. And I would say equally as impressive has been his special team skill set. That's going to make him even more valuable to this roster. So to me, even in just the first week of watching training camp, it feels like Mark Webb might be a permanent add to this roster, at least for a while, with what he's been doing in training camp. Next up, I hate to say this one, man, because I know there's a lot of people out there that love this guy, myself included. I was there. I was watching the preseason game where he shined. Can you guys guess who I'm talking about? We're talking a little bit about Easton Stick, okay? Easton Stick, like a 5th round pick for the Chargers so many years back. It's sad to say, but I think he's getting pushed out of this roster. I'm sorry, Stick believers, I really am. But the Chargers already limited his odds at that when they signed Chase Daniels. Of course, they're going to want to do that, bring in a veteran guy as Justin Herbert continues to improve. But his future looked even more bleak after the Chargers decided to additionally sign KJ Castillo, which honestly spells disaster for Easton Stick. Now, all the coaches and everybody will tell you, well, we want 4 quarterbacks back there in a competition. We'll see who's going to earn. I feel like Easton Stick, if they were truly confident in Easton Stick, they wouldn't have signed 2 additional quarterbacks. So unfortunately, that does make Easton Stick a loser on this list. He still has a chance to go out there and win the spot, but just all the signs point in the direction that he might be getting cut sooner than later. Let's close this list out with a couple of big winners, guys. I think these players are true standouts for me. One of them honestly being a big surprise. I knew that he was going to be good, but maybe not that good. Taking a look at Jared Cook, okay? Jared Cook, he's like 35 years old. He was around when the pyramids were built, and he's still out here making big plays with the Chargers. Him and Justin Herbert have really been, developing a chemistry over training camp. We've seen a lot of big plays to Jared Cook, and honestly, it's hard to not see it coming, but a lot of us didn't see it coming because, again, a lot of us super bummed out about the whole Hunter Henry situation. If we had to choose one, of course, I think 99.99% of us would have chose to keep Hunter Henry on the roster, but that doesn't mean Jared Cook isn't a fantastic athlete, man. This guy is one of the best vertical tight ends in the league, pass catching tight ends in the league. Sure, he may need a lot of work and stuff in run blocking, which he's definitely run out of time to polish, but he's a really good weapon for Justin Herbert, and Herbert and Cook have really been connecting a lot in training camp so far. So I think this does spell out to decent production from the veteran in 2021, and I do think he has a lot to offer, especially in the red zone. I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing, and I'm very impressed with Jared Cook's still high level of play. Let Herbert to cook, I think, is going to be the hashtag of the offseason and going into the regular season. Now, finally, and I was trying to keep this list more limited to the players that we saw that maybe aren't like superstars and stuff like that, but it's really hard not to notice this man right here, okay? Darwin James. We saw what Brandon Staley did with the Los Angeles Rams and Jalen Ramsey. He had himself a superstar out there and put Jalen Ramsey in positions to succeed over and over and over again, playing him all over the field, right? Well, a lot of us feel like that specific scheme or skill set or whatever is exclusive to the cornerback position. No, when you're talking about Brandon Staley and his defense, you got to wipe away the concept of safety, free safety, strong safety, cornerback, slot. You clump all of that into one position, and that's defensive back, right? And the reason I'm saying this is because, in a way, Brandon Staley has his Jalen Ramsey on this team and Darwin James. Sure, Darwin James is technically a safety, but he's been playing all over the field. The reason why I want to close out this video with Darwin James is because of how much of an impact he's going to be on this team, and we're seeing the signs of it in training camp right now. Darwin James, outside, inside, underneath, up top, everywhere, and he's the kind of guy that's going to make plays. And what makes it so exciting is I think of it as a chess match, right? And this is the only time I'm ever going to refer to Darwin James as the queen. But in chess, he feels like the queen piece to me, right? He does everything. He's your most powerful piece on that defense. And if you play him right, if you put him in the right position, he's going to win every single time. And honestly, the analogy is so perfect because his presence could spell to the victory of the entire game, especially when it comes to the effectiveness of the defense. What I'm seeing in training camp right now with Darwin James is astonishing. And honestly, if he can stay healthy, he's got as good a shot as anybody to win comeback player of the year and be one of the most, impressive defensive players in the entire league. Defensive player of the year as well. I mean, maybe I'm looking into it a little bit too big. Of course, he's got a lot to catch up on after injury, so maybe that's a little out of the realm of possibility. But at the same time, his presence on this defense and the way Brandon Staley's going to be utilizing him is very, very exciting. I'm very, very, hyped to see how this shakes out in the regular season, because from training camp, the signs are pointing to him being a huge presence on this team. Well, guys, that's going to do it for me today. Let me know if you guys have been watching tape, you guys have been watching clips and stuff of training camp. If you've been there at training camp, let me know some of your impressions of the team right now. Very excited. So many players looking up. Some players do need to work on a couple of different areas. But right now, guys, the Chargers are trending up. I think the NFL's kind of taking notice a little bit, but I don't mind being the underdog a little bit, the sleeping giant a little bit. And when we get in there, we kick some butt. So let me know who you guys have been noticing, some of the stories that have made you excited. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty.